think we can start. Thank you so much, everybody, for making time to join us today. I hope you had a lovely first half of the morning hearing from the speakers. It gives me great pleasure to actually introduce our panelists for today who took time to come and share with us about dyslexia. And if, as you know, dyslexia is actually a condition where reading is, can you hear me, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. So dyslexia is actually a condition which is a common difficulty that children face at a young age when it comes to reading, writing, and spelling. But if it is actually identified at a younger age, it actually helps the child a lot, right? So we want to hear from different specialists that have come on board as our panelists. And I'd like to introduce to you Puan Saria Amirin. And Puan Saria, can you tell us a little bit about yourself so that the guests will, it's better than me just reading from your CV. Just share with everybody just a few lines about yourself. You're muted, Puan. You have to unmute. Yes. Yes, Puan, you may go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Amirin. I'm with the Persatuan Dyslexia Malaysia. We started the Persatuan way back from 1998. And at that time, we were in, the first center was in Titi Wangsa. So right now, we are having 17 centers all over Malaysia. Anyway, I'd just like to talk about dyslexia. All right, dyslexia is a hidden learning difficulty and simply a word describing some children, 5 to 10%.
Puan Saria, just a minute. Just let's introduce everybody first, and then I will call on you to share. Thank you so much.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I have Dr. Choi just introduce yourself, please?
Okay. Hi, I'm Dr. Choi, and I'm the co-founder of Altus Academy. So we are a center who specialize in dyslexia intervention. I am myself a mother of 3 children with learning disabilities. So I have been through everything that a mother has to go through. And I'm very pleased to be able to share today. And thank you for having me, Rani.
Thanks, Dr. Choi. Puan Mahfuza, could you share a little bit about yourself?
Hello, hi, Assalamualaikum, and a very good morning. I think you can hear me clearly. Okay, my name is Mahfuza binti Zainal. I am an occupational therapist working with Ministry of Education. So my background is I started my first posting as a special education teacher at a secondary school in Kuala Lumpur, and then I was transferred to be an occupational therapist with Ministry of Education. My degree, my first degree is in occupational therapy, was in Cardiff University in United Kingdom. And then I pursue, currently I am a PhD candidate with University Kebangsaan Malaysia. My research area was in handwriting skills for special needs children. So I have experience work as an occupational therapist for about 10 years with Ministry of Education. And I also publish, or I can say that I produce books on special education and occupational therapy intervention. My books currently, I have more than 20 titles. They are both in Malay language and English language. So I think that's all for introduction. So over to you, Rani. Thank you.
Thank you, Puan Mahfuza. And last but not least, Puan Sherry, can you please share with us a little bit about yourself?
Right, thank you, Rani. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all. My name is Sharifana Bidisha, but you can call me Sherry. I prefer to be called Sherry. So basically, I'm an academic at University Technical Malaysia Melaka. I'm teaching computer science, human-computer interaction, and also games development. And I've been doing research about people with special needs for more than 10 years. I started with older adults and then children with dyslexia, Down syndromes, and autism. And I think for the past 6 to 7 years, our research work, for my research group, we are focusing more towards young adult with dyslexia. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Lovely. Actually, the way that the screen has appeared also is good when I asked you all to introduce yourself, because Puan Saria was talking about what's dyslexia. Then we had Dr. Choi talking about how she's handling it to assist children. And Puan Mahfuza is the occupational therapist. And there comes TS Sherry with the technology intervention, with everything being digital nowadays. So that's really great. Okay, so just before we start, I like to just play short videos for everybody, and then we will start on the session. All right, just give me a moment while I share my screen. Sorry for the technical glitch. It's all good now. Can you?
Back then, I never thought I'd make a living with words. As an actor, as a director, and now as a writer, too. Now, these days, we know a lot more about helping kids with dyslexia and other learning disabilities. For more information and ideas, please visit LD Online. It is the best LD resource on the web.
And I remember one day he asked me to stay after to wash blackboards. Now, this wasn't a punishment. This was a pleasure because we all adored him. And while I was washing the blackboard, I'll never forget this, he had My Fair Lady, he put on My Fair Lady. And he asked me to make numbers and letters with this wet sponge. And I did, and I think that is where the code showed up. That's when he realized I couldn't do it. And that I wasn't translating and reading, that something was wrong. And I remember he came up to me, his hand went right in the center of his back, and as I'm telling you this, I swear to God, I can still feel the warmth of his hands. And he slid down next to me and he says, "Oh, honey, I think you have something that has a name." He said, you feel dumb, don't you? And I remember just bursting into tears and wanting to run away, because of all people, I wanted him to like me, and I thought if he knew I was dumb, he wouldn't like me anymore. And instead, he opened the world up. He paid out of his own pocket for a specialist to work with me, and this was before we had reading specialists like we do now. And I can't tell you what method worked. We did colored acetates, we did balance board, we did literally physical exercise, M.C. Escher paintings, I mean, you name it, we did it. But I will never forget the day that I could look at something on a piece of paper or in a book, get a mental image, and something would come out of my mouth that was the same thing. This was a miracle. So I said one word, and it was right. Then pretty soon it was a sentence. It was right. Pretty soon a paragraph. And then finally an entire page. So he changed everything. Changed everything for me.
Where Percy Jackson came from, it's certainly not. I never sat down and said, okay, today I'm going to write a children's book. It was really my son. He was having a tough year in school.
So that was the video I wanted to share with you, because everybody, they've heard of dyslexia, but not many people understand the challenges a child faces. So let me just call upon Puan Saria to start the session with her presentation, and let's go into the meeting proper now. Puan Saria, you have to unmute your mic and you may start.
Right. All right. Okay. Thank you, Anuga. Dyslexia. Dyslexia is actually a hidden learning disability. No one will know just looking at the child. It's simply a word describing some children, 5 to 10%, who find it hard to learn to read and write. Even though their intelligence is normal and they are actually very bright. Dyslexia is the largest in number amongst all the LDs. 1 in every 20. That will be about 500,000 school-going children. Now, how do we cater for that? Okay, dyslexia results from differences in the structure and function of the brain. It is still not very clear, actually, what causes dyslexia. More recent studies use the fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, to scan the brain for diagnosis, but then this machine is too expensive for us. Okay, dyslexia is not a disease, so we do not talk about a cure. Although it's a lifelong condition, most dyslexic learn to read and write well. Early intervention is advised, actually. So this is why we came up with our program. We call it Kelas Bimbingan Intensive Dyslexia, which is recommended by the Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia. Your support and commitment towards us and understanding will change the lives of these children, especially the underprivileged children whose educational needs are also the same. So why do we have to help these children? Because they have great potentials. They need us to support them physically, emotionally, and of course, academically. Educating them is actually very expensive because we need to have a lot of teaching materials, but it's worth spending because they have great potentials to become like famous dyslexics like Albert Einstein, Winston Churchill, Walt Disney, Tom Cruise, Leonardo da Vinci, and many, many more. It has been tremendously difficult for us to get financial support, as these children look so normal, speaks very well. Their potential will give good returns to the country, and above all, less social problem among youth and also adults. You know, when we are doing our intensive program, I see dyslexic come and go. I see them improve and progress through our intensive program. I hear their grouses. They are suffering in school. They didn't ask to be born this way, although help is given, but not enough. Dyslexic learn differently. They need pictorial memory support. They need to be taught the way they learn, the multi-sensory way. So this is what is costing a lot of money. They need to be taught in small groups. That's very important because they need all the attention from the teachers. All right, we have a lot of issues and constraints actually. We work together with the relevant department, Ministry of Education, for instance. Thank you for allowing children with dyslexia. Oh, we are off. Yeah. Okay. I would like to thank the. Can you hear me? Okay. I'd like to thank the Ministry of Education actually for allowing children with dyslexia to take the children away from the what do you call it, mainstream school to attend the intensive program organized by Persatuan Dyslexia Malaysia. More intensive programs are required throughout Malaysia, which is, as I said earlier, it's not enough help. Requiring more help in providing the educational needs. So this is where I said money is never enough. Okay, teaching strategies should be changed. This is very, very important for dyslexics. Now, the teacher training division actually, when they train the teachers, most of the teachers are from the special education teachers. But the thing is that dyslexia is in the mainstream school. So how can the teachers detect them? So this is where they should put curriculum for teaching, training the teachers. Then we have the Ministry of Women, Family and Community. They should include knowledge on dyslexia in training of mothers-to-be, training of KMAS preschool teachers, because so many of our children goes to KMAS preschool teaching. And lastly, they should help me, they should help the Persatuan to educate public on dyslexia. I again would like to thank the examination board has allocated extra facility during standardized exams. They've given us extra time, a reader one-to-one to read out the questions to the children because they find it difficult reading. But when it is read to them, they understand the question better. And then the question papers with larger fonts and colored paper if possible, and put them in a separate room. All right, then they come to schools. Some heads of schools don't seem to understand educational needs for dyslexia. They are unable to send the teachers for training offered by Persatuan Dyslexia. So these are our grouses actually. All right, teachers, some teachers, they're not aware of dyslexia because they are unable to identify who is dyslexic and who's not. Not understanding the educational needs, not interested to learn more about dyslexia, do not attend courses. We can't change God's gift, but we can change the methods of teaching. Okay, then come the parents. Parents, of course, some of them are denial, refuse to understand. Even if they understand, they will not give the support. Not willing to take action. Waste of time and money, it seems. Then ignorance, not aware until too late. When they come crying to us, how can you help us? Please help my son, you know? Then finance. RM is never enough, especially to cater for the education needs of the poor and dyslexic children. Now, come to what we do at our centers. We are running like a school. And this is why the education ministry has to come in, because we are running like a school. And then what happened is in our program, before they join our program, we have to do the educational assessment. See, they've gone for the psychological assessment, but from the psychological assessment, the teachers can't come up with the IEP. So we need to do educational assessment so that we know where are the children problem areas. So this is very, very important. So then when the teacher come up with the IEP, then they will know where to put them. Because we break the children into three groups, which is beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So in beginner, they learn how to recognize and give the phonics to the letters A to Z, and then slowly we blend up into words, you know, 3-letter words, 4-letter words, 5-letter words, words like that. Then the subject that we are teaching here is English, Bahasa Malaysia, and mathematics, because some of them is having dyscalculia. All right, then the program is actually a 4-hour program, a daily program, 4 hours, and the children varies from 5 years old right through 18 years old. So it's actually a real pity for the child who is 18 years old. This child has to mix up with the younger ones, you know, little ones coming to school. So what we do now, we have our youth club, whereby they come in for discussion of what they want to do, you know, help them, motivate them, things like that. And we can see that we have been successful with that program as well, the youth program. And we also prepare the youngsters, you know, young adults going to work. We also prepare them how to attend the interviews in a way. So this is also very acceptable by the parents, and they're very happy that this is done. So I think, so our program, we don't take leave like the school leave, the school holidays. Because we are under the Kementerian Pendidikan, we still follow the holiday from the schools. So what happens is when we have for the government school, they go for holiday for about 2 weeks, but then we only go for 1 week. That is because if the holiday is too long, they forgot what they have learned. So we just take 1 week for each holiday. And in December, we don't go for the whole month. We just go for 15 days. So this is why we call it intensive program. So this program, the children stays with us only for 3 months. And they should be able to come up to the level of their age in reading, writing, and arithmetic. I think that's about all I can say about dyslexia. But I think
Thank you so much.
yeah. I hope there's some questions coming up, right? There will be some question and answers, right?
We will handle the questions at the end so that we finish all the speakers first. Thank you so much for the informative sharing. It's really good. At least we know what's happening on the ground as well. Let me now call upon Dr. Choi to do her presentation. For the sake of time, 10 to 15 minutes is allocated for this presentation. Thank you. Dr. Choi, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
okay, just a recap. So my name is Dr. Choi, and I am the founder of Altus Academy. So how I got into this area is that I'm a mother of 3 beautiful boys. Okay, my younger 2 are twins, all 3 boys. So you can imagine how chaotic my house is. So we started out by finding out that, my eldest son is dyslexic. And we didn't find out until he was about 7+, which I think is quite late because it's already year 1 and going into year 2, right? And the kindergarten teachers never pointed anything out to us. It was only when we attended the primary school that one of the teachers highlighted, right? So we were quite grateful because then at least we can actually start taking action. So after a while, then I decided to, take things into my own hands, and started teaching him. Started to teach him myself, and subsequently, because he has dyslexia and it's also hereditary, so I quickly just started teaching these 2 younger ones as well, even though they were not diagnosed yet. Okay, and this is what our center looks like. Okay, and usually we do 1-to-1. Okay. So just coincidentally, I just want to highlight that this month, October, is also International Dyslexia Awareness Month. So yes, please share the message. What you learned today, please also share with others. Oops. So dyslexia actually falls under learning difficulties, or LD. So it's a group of disorder involving the difficulties in acquisition and the use of listening, speaking, reading, writing, reasoning, and mathematical skills. It doesn't actually affect the overall development of the child, right? So which is why sometimes it's so hard to spot, and some kids are actually identified a bit later, right? Compared to, let's say, symptoms like Down syndrome or autism, you can spot them at a very, very early age, okay? And because it doesn't affect the overall development of the child, it's also sometimes called the specific learning disorder. So because they only have very specific difficulties, which is learning to read and write, okay? So these are the common 3Ds, dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. So dyscalculia or lexia, difficulty with words or reading. Dysgraphia is difficulty with writing. the output. So one is the input and the other one is the output. And difficulty with maths is dyscalculia. Okay? So sometimes the child can have comorbidity. Comorbidity means they have more than one condition. So they may have dyslexia, or they may have dyslexia and dyscalculia, or they may have all three or something else. Some of them may also have dyslexia plus ADHD or plus global development delay, or some of them have dyslexia with Asperger's and so forth. So this is important to find out. That's why we need to see the pediatrician to diagnose. So having said that, I just want to highlight that do not be too discouraged, because like Saria said, they have very high potential, right? So basically, these are some of the most brilliant people: Albert Einstein, Mark Zuckerberg, Richard Branson, and not too far away, Singapore is Kuan Yew. Okay, these are all famous dyslexics. Of course, got the more good-looking ones like Tom Cruise and so forth, right? Those we know. Okay. So one of the things that as what we need to know is how to look out for red flags, right? I know there's teachers and but I don't think we need to depend entirely on them. So these are just a few points that staff can actually also look out for it. And if you suspect anything that is amiss, okay, then you can actually take action and you can send the developmental pediatrician. Okay, so one of the first speech. Okay, speech delay. So because dyslexia is a language difficulty, so one of the signs of delay in speech, but not all of them have delay in speech. Maybe just some of them. One of the things that you can look out. Secondly is difficulty with learning the alphabets. Okay, you will find that maybe other kids, they can learn A to Z very quickly, but you find them having difficulty to do the same, right? Keep A to D, A to G, then after that forget, and so forth. The other one is rhyme. Difficulty in terms of identifying with rhyme. If you give them a word like bat, they may not be able to know how to rhyme with cat, okay, for example, or they may not be able to hear the difference, or hear the similarity, whether that rhymes or not. Okay, and then the other one is, of course, difficulty with reading. So one of the common complaints you would hear is that, oh, I just read this word with you in the last two pages or last page, and now in the next page is the same word and you can't remember. So that kind of, complaints you typically hear from a parent who has a child who's struggling with dyslexia. So they do have a problem with acquiring learning, reading, and spelling, of course. Spelling would be they would have more difficulty in terms of spelling than reading, right? You will see that the words, they try to spell phonetically, but then it's not the right spelling, okay? And then, of course, the last thing to look out for is whether someone in your family, whether in your husband's side or your side, or maybe 2 generations down, have also a similar condition. So if, in someone in the family has it, there's a high chance that your child may have it as well, right? So these are some of the red flags that you can actually look out for. In terms of reading, some kids with dyslexia, they're actually very, very bright, right? So what happens is that they memorize the words. So it appears like perhaps at the early stage that they know how to read. But once it gets to the slightly higher or difficult level, then you will find that they drop again because the brain is not able to manage so many words in terms of the memory capacity, right? Okay, so those are some things that you should look out for as well. So what to do next? As a parent, if you notice some of these signs, the first thing is to see a developmental pediatrician in a hospital. All right, so not the normal pediatrician, but the developmental pediatrician, because they are the medical professionals who will diagnose, right? And you would see them because they will look at the child in entirety. They look at the medical condition to see also whether there's anything else that may be contributing to the learning difficulty and not just dyslexia. Okay, then subsequently intervention. Okay, so intervention, I can't stress this enough. Early intervention is very important because it takes time for the child to actually reach a peer reading level. Okay. Okay, and then what we do at our center is we use the Otton Gillingham approach to teach the kids. And so this approach is a powerful instructional approach for teaching reading and writing because it has all these 7 tenets. It's multisensory, sequential, incremental, cumulative, individualized, based on phonograms, and also explicit. Okay. So if you have any other questions, you can ask in the chat later on. Okay, so thank you very much, Rani.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Choi. That was very informative, educational, and also a good sharing because you had shown the different ways how we can identify it as well for parents who have not known of these ways, right? So right now, let's go on to Puan Mahfuza. Puan Mahfuza, can you do your presentation? And then after yourself and Puan Sherry, we will have the questions from the audience as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope you can see my screen right now.
Yes.
Can you?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right, that's great. All right, so just let me do a little bit of technical things here. Okay, sorry. Can you see mine?
Yes, we can. But
All
it's
right.
not full screen yet.
Oh, it's not. I think I'm just do stop.
Do it like this? Okay.
Yeah. I'll just do that again. Okay, just do. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay. All right. So yeah. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. My name is Mahfuza binti Zainal. Actually, I've been talking about myself a little bit earlier just now. Okay, so I'm just gonna express that thank you for inviting me to track 3 to talk about dyslexia. I am an occupational therapist working with Ministry of Education, and I have been working with Ministry of Education as an occupational therapist since 2011. I'm just going to talk about the issue. How I have been working with dyslexia children since then. So myself is in Malay. So bagaimana diagnosis dyslexia. So I'm going to share about my experience because I'm working with Ministry of Education. So we have an instrument. This is a screening instrument, especially made for teachers. It is called Instrument Senarai Semak Dyslexia. So I work in Pusat Perkhidmatan Pendidikan Khas. So we receive referral from the teachers that these kids have dyslexia and these kids have at risk of having dyslexia because they cannot read at the age of 9 or 10, something like that. So we go to the school and we ask the school teacher, especially the Malay language teacher, the teacher Bahasa Melayu, who have been teaching this kid more than 6 months to answer this instrument, the questions in this ISD, we call that ISD, Instrument Senarai Semak Dyslexia. This is originally from Bahagian Pendidikan Khas Ministry of Education. So after that, we will have a calculation whether the child is at risk or not. So so if the child have a risk of having dyslexia, we will go for further assessment at Pusat Perkhidmatan Pendidikan Khas, where I work as an OT, and we also have speech therapists, and we have clinical psychologists to look on the other things. So in occupational therapy intervention, we do occupational therapy evaluation. We also we assess the visual perception, visual motor skills, visual memory, auditory memory, and other aspects that regarding the dyslexia problem with the child. So we involve other professionals at Pusat Perkhidmatan Pendidikan Khas to have a very quick assessment for this child who are at risk. Okay, we do diagnostic tests. I think Puan Sarah has mentioned about the diagnostic test. It is more on academic assessment, like maths, simple readings, writing skills. And then we will do a clinical psychology assessment. Basically, the clinical psychologist will do a very thorough IQ assessment. I know that one of the assessment is TONI, test of non-verbal intelligence, and also they do have I think Wechsler, but I have always seen they do a lot of TONI because it is non-verbal assessment. So the IQ assessment done by clinical psychologists, and then on our part as occupational therapy, we do visual perception, cognitive assessment, handwriting, because we can see a lot of handwriting problems among dyslexia children. And also we cannot forget to do motor assessment, because dyslexia kids might have issues on motor skills as well. And then the kid will go to the speech and language therapies to do the assessment on the speech. So the therapist will do the auditory comprehension, phonological awareness assessment, speech assessment, and things like that. And then the audiologist also will take part to do the hearing test, so that if these professionals have do their simple assessment and the kids might have issues to further rule on dyslexia diagnosis, so we will refer to the nearest clinic kesihatan, because clinic kesihatan offer free of charge if the kids are Malaysian. So we will write a referral or result of the assessment, and then we will refer to the clinic kesihatan. At the clinic kesihatan, the kid will see the family specialist, FMS, family medicine specialist, to further rule out the issues with him. Okay, with this kid. So I think the process is not a short process. Okay, I think it will take like more than 6 months. So that is why we cannot simply get a diagnosis of dyslexia kids within 1 month or within 1 week. So it will take a long process, because the kid will see different professionals to rule out their issues with dyslexia. So that is my part that I can say about how we are doing dyslexia screening, dyslexia assessment before the kid has been get the diagnosis. Okay, so as an occupational therapist, we also have a specific instrument, specific assessment, namely Bengal dyslexia test, dyslexia screening test for secondary. Secondary is for 12 years old and above, and then the dyslexia screening test junior. The junior the age start from 5 to 10 years old, if I am not mistaken, but I need to check on that further. Okay, but these are the instruments or the assessment, the standardized one. We are using it as occupational therapists, but not all occupational therapists are trained to use this assessment. I think the Malaysian occupational therapists, they don't have proper training to use these instruments. So I think that is one of the issues. That is why we need to empower our occupational therapists to be able to undergo quite a broad range of instrument on dyslexia detection. This is only the instrument on the detection of dyslexia, but not the confirmation yet. So we only do the screening, and the diagnosis is done by the doctors, the professional medical doctors. Yeah. So these are the assessment part that I can say. So what are we doing? I mean, as occupational therapy, what are the occupational therapy intervention we do for dyslexia children? Before I proceed, I forgot to mention that in Malaysia, like I have been handling cases, referral cases. The teachers refer kids having dyslexia at the age of 7, 8, and 9 years old. So this is quite late actually, but referring to the DSM-5, the Diagnostic Manual Statistic for mental health, actually dyslexia is diagnosed at the age of 7 or 8 years old. Actually, the actual age is when the kids are having formal education. So in Malaysia, we start our formal education at the age of 7, standard 1, year 1. So 6 months during year 1, or 6 months in year 1, so then we can proceed for dyslexia screening or dyslexia assessment. So within before that time, we allow the child to adapt himself in the class. So might be that he don't have dyslexia. Maybe he's just a slow learner or late bloomer, or just not dyslexia at all. It's just kids. Yeah. Okay. So what we do what are the intervention for dyslexia kid by occupational therapy? So we do a lot of activities like brain gym like activities lah. Like we play with ball. We do a lot of midline crossing activities. And when it comes to worksheet, we do a lot of visual perception materials, worksheets. Visual perception like this, these are the examples that I can pick up for you to be able to see what we are doing for dyslexia kids. Yeah. So this is the brain gym. These are the latihan coordination things with dyslexia kids. This one as well. Auditory and verbal instruction. So for example, we ask the kids to bulatkan nombor 2. So the kids have to be visually and cognitively focused to find numbers. Yeah, number 2. And then we also have visual memory intervention. So this is what we do because some of the complaints we got from teachers, from parents, my kids have short memory, has short-term memory. Yeah. So we do visual memory test or visual memory intervention. Like for example, we show this shape for 5 seconds, and then we ask the kids, which shape did you see just now? Okay, so this is like for a simple dyslexia for visual memory intervention. So we do quite a lot of these things. And then yes, to remember the shapes, visual memory as well. And then we show the picture like for 5 seconds, and we need to make sure that the kids are focusing on the picture. Okay, and then we ask, what did you see just now? Okay, so these are the visual memory tests. And we also do a lot of physical activities like sensory circuit activities, lompat bintang like star jump, because they need to coordinate their body, because some of the dyslexia kids, they have coordination problem. Okay, so these are the sensory circuit. And then, yeah, we do a lot of coordination, hand-eye coordination activities using the tennis ball, because the tennis ball have a very small, I mean, yeah, it's quite a small ball. And then, and it has, we ask the kid to, you know, to throw up, to lantun above and catch. Okay, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, because it will be working with the hand eye and coordination with the kids. So it is related to the situation where the kids need to copy what the teachers wrote in front of the classroom on her paper, I mean on a book, on his book, something like that. So this is a hand-eye coordination practice, but we are practicing with the kids, not using the book. We are using the ball, with the ball, yeah, with the tennis ball. Okay, so this is the tennis ball activities, zigzag, and then yes, ball activities again. And then we also have yeah, we ask the kids to sebutkan warna, to sebut warna, like to mention the colors they see in the boxes. Okay, and then this is quite tricky one. We ask the kids to sebut the warna tulisan, not the spelling, the warna tulisan. So it might be confusing for them, but it is intervention. It is intervention for them to practice with cognitive scale, with the focus and things like that. Okay, so also we do quite a little bit of maths skills, because in Malaysia, dyslexia children, we offer dyslexia kids to have one, like not one-to-one, small groups of small class with the dyslexia teacher in Bahasa Melayu and mathematics. So we guide the teacher to do quite a lot of to do these activities lah, like to ask them to kira terbalik, backwards counting, like 10, 9, because they have issues with this thing as well. Okay, and we also like do chongak thing, like we do maths only on our head. Okay, like chongak 5 plus 2, 3 plus 3, something like that, so that this is to enhance their working memory. Okay, and work with the brain as well. Okay, so I think that's the end of my sharing for the first round. I think over to you, Rani.
Mahfuza, that was a very good sharing, and also opened our eyes to the various methods that the different to help children, you know, via occupational therapy. Now let me call upon TS upon Sherry to do her sharing first, because we have quite a lot of questions by the audience as well. So over to you, Sherry.
All right, thank you, Rani. Can you all see my screen? Is it clear? Do you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we hear you too.
Interesting.
Yeah, okay. I think we lost her. She'll be back. Just give her a moment. Are you there? No.
Rani, I think Sherry has been disconnected. She mentioned about that in our group.
Oh, okay. But also, the sound system went down, right? Can you hear me, Puan Mahfuza?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Oh, good. Okay, because for a while, yes, I can hear you, but for a while, everything went silent. That's why I put in the group as well, because I was not sure. We are trying to fix it as soon as possible. Sorry for the temporary interruption. Just bear with us, please.
Hi everyone, this is TH here. Are you able to hear me clearly?
PH.
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay.
Now, sorry,
Rani, I
before,
believe
like very silent.
I believe the problem has to do with Rani's connection. If you can hear me clearly, that means it's just Rani's connection. Maybe someone else can try to speak or present, and we'll see what happens.
Hi, testing 1, 2, 3.
Sure. Because among the audience also, they have the same issue. They couldn't hear RTH.
Dr. Choi, can you just count to 10?
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, you're coming in loud and clear and your video is clear. So Rani, I think the problem is your connection. There's not much you can do. The only thing you can do is try to disconnect from Zoom and then come back.
I will leave and come back.
Yes, correct. I will help you when you come into the main room. I guess the rest of the speakers, they can continue.
Can you be here? Yes.
I think before we wait for
One of my speakers also had disconnected, so she's trying to come back now.
Rani, I think can we just start with the Q&A session so that we won't so that while waiting for the last speaker to come in, so we have something to run on.
5 points already.
Yeah, sure. It's a great idea. Oh.
We cannot hear you clearly, Rani.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can't hear you clearly. I think your sound system is a bit. I think you have.
I need take the first question from the chat first. Okay.
Hi everyone, this is TH here. So it looks like the problem is with Rani's connection. Someone has to take over as moderator and continue the session. It seems like reconnecting did not solve the problem for her. So maybe someone can step up and do the Q&A on behalf, because I think Rani's audio might not fix itself. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, TH. So I think I'm just gonna take over just for a while. Okay. Even though I'm the one of the panelists, but I think I just take over just for a few minutes. I think we go to the first questions we received from So-Yi. Do teachers in mainstream schools know how to identify dyslexia students? What is done after one child is being identified? Okay, so we only have Puan Saria, me, and Dr. Choi who wants to answer these questions.
I think pertaining to mainstream school, you might want to try, because I think the parents would like to know how it works in the government school, I think.
Yeah, I think for this question from So-Yi, I did mention about the ISD thing that we have in Ministry of Education. So I think I've explained about the procedure. So when we receive referral from teachers complaining that this kid might have dyslexia, we ask the teacher, the Bahasa Melayu teacher, to do the ISD, the saringan, the instrument saringan dyslexia, and then after that we will do the professional, the professional assessment at Pusat Perkhidmatan Pendidikan Khas, and then we will refer this kid to the nearest clinic kesihatan, and after that, once the kid has diagnosis of having dyslexia, it's up to the parents to apply for OKU card, or the parents have option not to apply for OK card, or they can apply, because dyslexia kids are entitled to receive to have OKU card and get all the benefits from Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat. They will get allowance, monthly allowance, until they finish schools and things like that. So after the child has dyslexia, has diagnosis of having dyslexia, we have options for the kids to go. For the first option is to stay in wherever the school is. Okay, so we call that inclusive education. Okay, so there's no special needs teacher or special class for this kid, because they are in fully inclusive. But and then the second option that we might have asked the parents whether you want to transfer your child to the school who have special education program. We call it Program Pendidikan Khas Integrasi PPKI. So it's up to the parents. If the parents agree to transfer the kids to to school who have which has a PPKI program, so we transfer the kid, and then we will do a program like we do like half inclusive. Okay, so this is like we put the kids in special education class, PPKI class, PPKI program, but only for the certain subjects we ask the kids to go to the mainstream class. Okay, so this is how half inclusive means, how inclusive program is being is being managed. Okay, so but then we need to discuss with the parents, and we also need to do screening, assessment with the kid whether the child is suitable for this program. Okay, or else if the child is not is not suitable to go for half inclusion, we will put her or we will put him fully in PPKI program. So by doing this, the child is undergoing full special education program with the PPKI. So we also have another option, which is we have a few schools with dyslexia program. Okay, so this is quite tricky because I've been in Ministry of Education. I have been experiencing doing this. So it is quite tricky for those who are not in the line. So we have another option is if the parents want to transfer the kids to the dyslexia to the school who have which have dyslexia program, so we will consider that the child to go to the dyslexia program. We don't have much. Okay, in Malaysia, we only have like a few, like one state, we only have less than 5 schools who have dyslexia teachers with dyslexia program. The quite famous one is in SK Taman Tun Dr. Ismail, Taman Maluri, and Yaakob Latif, I think. If I'm not mistaken. Okay, because the program is changing every time. Okay, so in dyslexia program, okay, the child will be putting in mainstream class, but only for Bahasa Melayu and mathematics, the kid will be pulled out to the dyslexia class. Okay, like for a small group teaching with the dyslexia teacher. Okay, so that is how I can say, because we have quite a lot of option available, and the parents have rights to choose which one which program they want for their kids who have dyslexia, who have been diagnosed with dyslexia. Okay, I think I've answered that question quite comprehensively, I think. Okay, so we move on to the next question from Miss Sarojini.
Sorry,
Don't you-
Mafiza.
Yes, Dr. Choi, sorry.
Sherry is back, so maybe we can.
Oh, yes.
continue
Okay.
the presentation.
Sherry, Puan Sherry is back. So are you ready to share your screen, Puan Sherry?
Yes, I'm going to share my
Okay.
screen. So I'm going to go very quickly, yeah? Hold
Okay.
on. First and foremost, I'm very sorry. It's so ironic that I'm talking about technology, but technology has sabotaged me during my presentation. So yeah, but I'll do this very, very quickly just to introduce you to the use of technology for people with dyslexia, and a little bit about the implication of dyslexia to young adults based on my experience at the university, mentoring a few students who actually struggle with dyslexia, and they are actually undiagnosed young adult with dyslexia and never get intervention when they was young. All right, so I'm going to go quickly, right, to this screen. So this is basically a screen that compiled the experience of one student, which I have mentored earlier. And as you can see on the left hand side screen, this is a handwriting written by this student to express himself. At first glance, you might see it as a Hebrew, but that's not Hebrew, obviously. If you can understand that, that is actually like a symbol that represents, so yeah. And this is a drawing on the right-hand side of the screen is his drawing that describes his frustration with learning, okay? And basically from what he described to me, the way he sees things is like a high-speed highway full of visuals, right? Okay. So now, all right. I'm going to talk about the implication of dyslexia to academic performance and career, especially for young adults. In some countries, especially in developed countries, issues with dyslexia is something common, and many people know about it because the awareness in the community are very good. So this is a case of a Starbucks employee who won a case of a Starbucks due to victimization that left her suicidal. Okay, that was back in 2016, and I'm sure the similar story is quite common in some other countries, but in our countries, due to the lack of awareness, so this is not something common to be discussed, and even something that can be seen as negative to some people. Okay. And I'm sharing here some of the references provided by the universities in the UK that help young adults who are struggling with dyslexia. So in this reference book, basically, they provide with the tips, the do and the don'ts that help young adults to study better at university. Unfortunately, we don't have such document yet for the university in Malaysia, but my team currently at the University of Technical Malaysia Malacca, we are working on a book that providing some tips for young adults with dyslexia to study at the university. Hopefully by early of next year, you can get the books. All right. Okay, so I'm going to talk about directly to some of the research work that I have done with my group that focusing on the use of technology to help children with dyslexia and young adults with dyslexia. I think it's very important to note that the use of technology for people with dyslexia ranging from the diagnostic tools, intervention, and also as the plug and play tools. All right, but currently in Malaysia, most of the tools that is available are mostly for teaching and learning to help children or adults with dyslexia to learn better. So one of the things that I have worked on, so basically this is our work with Persatuan Dyslexia Malaysia, started back in 2008. We have produced Mylexi. Okay, so Mylexi is a software, it's a courseware that helps children with dyslexia to learn basic Bahasa Melayu. And over the years, we have tested Mylexi with other learning difficulties, including with normal children. And we found out that this Mylexi also helps other children. Okay, so basically, if you want to learn basic Bahasa Melayu, you can try to use Mylexi. The only difference is that for normal children, they might take shorter time to be able to learn to read using Mylexi. Whereas other children with learning difficulties, especially with dyslexia, we have seen some of them who have used dyslexia constantly. They took about like 1 to 2 months to be able to read and spell in Bahasa Melayu. And to some extent, some of them take longer time, up to 6 months, to be able to read and spell in Bahasa Melayu. Okay, so currently we are developing Mylexi on the mobile application with upgraded content that is much more suitable with the current syllabus, current issues for children, right? And in 2015, we worked on this application called Spike. So basically, Spike is used to help teachers to determine the Bahasa Melayu article, the levels of Bahasa Melayu article, whether it is suitable for student with dyslexia or not. So this is based on the research done by other researchers at other institutions, but we have expanded the work and we developed Spike. And from Spike, the teachers should be able to know whether, say they for the paper Bahasa Melayu, for paper comprehension, they wanted to use article from Dewan Masyarakat, from Dewan Budaya, for example. So we wanted to make sure that the article are suitable for the target student, be it a normal student or student with dyslexia. So we can use this Spike to determine the levels of the article to be used. Okay, and number 3 is DIME. DIME is online screening tools for young adults with dyslexia. We have worked with 2 college community Jasin and college community RTC Gopeng. We use this tool basically to screen young adult or students who enroll at the institution to identify if they have symptoms with dyslexia, so they will get special intervention by the psychology officer at the institution. And both Spike and DIME also have won several research medals at the research and innovation exhibition locally and internationally. So here I would like to share, if you look in the middle of the screen here, this is actually a drawing by one of my students who has dyslexia, undiagnosed dyslexia. He just knew that he has dyslexia at the age of 21 years old. If you look closely, this is actually his exam papers. It's a multiple questions exam papers where you can see here the questions and then multi-choice answer A, B, C, and D. And multiple choices question is very frustrating, it's very difficult for people with dyslexia. So he basically expressed himself to that questions in a form of this drawing. Okay, so if you can read down here, he says, Mak, orang tak boleh teruskan semester SEM depan sebab subjek SEM depan semua meninggal. To indicate how frustrating himself with the way evaluation being conducted, which does not cater to his need as a student with dyslexia at university. But Alhamdulillah, he finally graduated with a very good pointer. But in order for him to complete his study, there are many ups and downs. And I think this is very important to highlight that for young adults without intervention at a younger age, their biggest struggle as they grow up to cope with the academic work at university or at colleges is basically their battle with their own self. It's a psychological battle. They always doubt themselves. They feel they are not good enough. They've been living with the shame and blame due to dyslexia. And I think this is very important to address that despite the fact that we have good technology, but without the awareness, we still might not be able to help these people with dyslexia. And as I mentioned earlier, the current technology that we have is mainly to support the intervention. But I do understand there are many works currently being which is in progress that looking the use of technology for diagnostic purposes. And one of the tools which is used to diagnose ADHD called NIBA, but this is tools that being used in the US, and it's very expensive even in the US, in some part of Canada as well, but that's not in Malaysia. And in order to develop such tool, it requires a lot of collaboration with psychology expert with a clinical psychologist, because basically the current tools that they use, or the current tools that they've been studied for research purposes, they studied the brainwave to see that how by understanding the brainwave, we'll be able to diagnose that this individual have ADHD or dyslexia or some other learning difficulties. And again, I've shared this in my talk with at Sunway College with the psychology students, that in the context of Malaysia, I think number one, we need to have the awareness, and then the technology is a support tools. Okay, it's not a compulsory, but having the online platform for teaching and learning does help young adults with dyslexia. Why? Because it allowed them to manage their own study. So they can use just the basic tools available in the computer, for example, like calendar, voice recorder, to assist them in managing their studies. We don't need something very sophisticated to help them to manage themselves, right? So I think that's all from me. So I'll be able to answer question if there is any later, and I can be contacted here, and you can visit to our research group Facebook, peer.awareness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Puan Sherry. Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Rani.
Okay, great. I was quite worried for a moment. Thank you so much, Puan Sherry. That was really great. And actually, technology will play a very important role from now. So all your work in technology is really appreciated. We have to leave this room in 29 seconds. I mean, it will automatically take us all to the main room. But rest assured, I will share with every panelist all the questions that the audience has asked. And once you have given me your replies, I will send it to the respective people who asked